Hello there, and welcome back to Let's Talk Chicago Bears. And this show is the official show for the season. No preseason anymore. The real games start on Sunday. Last night's game, the Buffalo Bills blew out the World Series, the Super Bowl champs, and that was the official start to the football season. What a great game that was. But yes, we're back, and let's get into it. It's the first game of the season, and so let's talk about it. I mean, it's kind of hard to predict what's going to happen because it is the first game. You just never know. It could be, we just don't know because we don't know enough about the Bears yet. We saw them in preseason, but let's face it, the teams they were playing against did not put their first string defense in. But we're just going to be positive, and hopefully we'll get a win, right? At the end of the day, I want the Bears to be in the game. That's really the most important part here. So, and I forgot to check my shirt before I started the show. I babysat my grandson today, who is going to be 5 months next week, and I don't know if I have any drool on my shirt, so if I do, sorry. So let's get talking. So, the Bears and the 49ers have played 68 times, including 3 postseason games, and the 49ers are leading with 35 wins to the Bears' 32 wins and 1 tie. So they're fairly close. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. We're going to talk about that. But I did want to talk about how I'm really liking the Bears' Ryan Poles. I believe he's got control of this team way more than Ryan Pace ever did. And he seems to be a very good evaluator of talent, at least so far. So let's see what happens on all his draft picks and how they pan out, right? I did want to say, though, this is Coach Matt's first season. And the Bears have had 17 head coaches in their history, and only 6 of them have had winning seasons their first year. Yep. And believe it or not, Matt Nagy is one of them. Can you believe it? He was 12-4, and then we know what happened after that because he tried to change Mitchell into being something he wasn't, and then the wheels fell off, right? Nagy sucked. You know how I feel about Nagy if you watch my show, so I'm just happy he's gone. So here's to hoping Coach Matt becomes the 7th head coach in the history of the Bears to have a winning season his first year. Okay, so let's talk about the captains. They named 4 captains, 2 on offense, 2 on defense. Justin Fields, the quarterback, and Cody Whitehair, the offensive line, are the 2 offensive captains. And the defense, no surprise, Robert Quinn and Roquan Smith are the defensive captains. So I hope these guys get these players together. And let's have a good season here, right? Regardless of the record, of course, I want them to have a winning record. I always do. But we want to see growth and improvement to go for the next year. So that's what we have to see this year. I don't want to see all the stuff that happened last year. No mental mistakes, all the penalties go away, the timeouts, all that stuff. Hopefully, Coach Matt is much better equipped, and I think he is. Okay, and the Bears players, I don't remember in the last few years hearing the players so excited to get out on the field, and it's true. They seem to, Coach Matt has them excited, and that is something we haven't seen in a few years. So let's hope, right? Because they are going up against the 49ers defense. And before the season even starts, their defense has been ranked number 1. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but they're ranking them number 1 because of what they have on paper. Last year, their defense was 9th overall in the league. If you're in the top 10, you're doing dang good. So it's a very good defense. So this is going to be a huge test for our offensive line Justin Fields, and our running backs. I got a lot of confidence in our running backs, but that offensive line really worries me because this is a good defense. So I'm just going to touch on a couple players. Again, usually I give stats from the last games opposed, I compare two teams, but it's the first game of the season. So really, on the offense, the quarterback this year is Trey Lance. He was drafted last year and played half the year. Jimmy Garoppolo is on the team. He's the backup, believe it or not. And then you have a really outstanding tight end, George Kittle. But he hasn't played the last couple days. He hurt his groin. So, sorry, George. I'd like to see you sit out this game, and then you can play next week. But he's a very good tight end. And then Debo and Samuel, great wide receiver. So just those two. I'm just shouting out. And then I'm giving a couple of their defensive players. Nick Bosa, really good defensive end. When he's healthy, he is the top of the line. And then one of their linebackers, Fred Warner, really, really good. And we know they have the best kicker in the league because he used to belong to us. Another Ryan Pace fuck up. His first year, he did not sign Robbie Gould. He should have, but he didn't. So Robbie is with the San Francisco 49ers. So that's just a little bit about the 49ers. They're good. Their defense is good. Again, it is going to be interesting to see how our offense fares against number one defense and a very good, the number one starters, and then a very good defense. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, right? So let's talk about some of the Bears players. I'm just going to go through a few. Justin Fields is starting the game, and then we do have a backup is Trevor Simeon. He is our backup. And then our running back is David Montgomery, and Herbert is right behind him. And the Bears did keep one fullback on the roster this year, and that's a Baskin game. So he is a fullback, so that's interesting. They don't normally keep fullbacks, but this year they did. Of course, our wide receiver, Mr. Mooney, number 11. I like me a Mr. Mooney. He's the starter on one end, one side. And then Venus Jones Jr. is, and then and Pettis, his last name. They're going to be going in and out. So those are our wide receivers. And then in the wideout spot, we have St. Brown, and that's followed by Pringle, and we'll see what these guys do. Honestly, except for Mr. Mooney, no one was on the team last year. No one's returned from last year as wide receivers. So, as a matter of fact, I'm going to kind of laugh at it. Last night's game, Robinson went to the Raiders, or the Rams in the offseason. As we all know, Allen Robinson went to them, and he did not play very well last night at all. He had one catch, and that was it. Sorry, I kind of like it. I was never a Robinson fan. He played well in the beginning, but I know last year, because he knew he was going into a free agency, he had a lot of injuries. You know what I mean when I say that? He did not. He just didn't want to play because he didn't want to get hurt. So to me, that's not a team player, and I don't want guys on my team that play like that. I just thought that he was full of himself. So we've got a very young offensive line, as we know. We've got Braxton Jones, Cody Whitehair. He's been in there. The center, Lucas Patrick. Our rookie, well, he's not a rookie, but he's been on the team and for 3 years now, Trevor Jenkins, and then the right tackle is Larry Bloom. So hopefully Jenkins starts to earn his paycheck, because the first 2 years he's with us, the first year he was with us 3 years ago, he didn't play. Last year I don't know if he played 1 or 2 games maybe, and so maybe a new coaching staff will help bring this guy. They say he's talented. He just hasn't shown it yet. And the Bears were trying to get rid of him in the offseason and in preseason, but no one took him. So now the Bears have got to make him an offensive lineman, and we got to have this line show up big time, because otherwise Justin Fields is going to be running for his life, kind of like Matt Stafford was doing yesterday. He was sacked. The last count I remember was 7 times Stafford yesterday. We don't want that for Justin Fields. And last year, Justin Fields was one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. You can't have that. You're not going to have a healthy quarterback doing that. So we really need that line to show up. So here's to our line. Of course, we have our good tight end, Cole Kmet. He's back, and I'm really happy. And then we got some other guys that are new, that were not on the team last year. So let's see what they all do. Again, these guys are all new. So I'm not really going to dive into these new players yet until we get a game or two under our belt. And then we're going to start talking about what we see. Our defense, you know what? We won't really know much about them because we've got, of course, Robert Quinn, who led the league in sacks last year, set a record. And did he lead the league? I think he did. I know that he set a record. So and he's in his 30s, so he is rocking it. So I'm looking forward to seeing him again. And I'd like to see him pick up where he left off last year. He's got new people around him, so let's see what happens on that defensive line. We are now in a 4-3, whether before under Nagy we were under a 4 or 3-4, right? And that means a 4-3 is there's 4 guys on the defensive line and there's 3 linebackers. Last year it was 3 on the defensive line and 4 of the linebackers. So I like the 4-3. Defense better. So let's see what these guys got. The defensive line, I'd like to see some sacks tomorrow. I'd like to see these linebackers flying all over the field. And Roquan, because the contracts talks are off for the rest of the year, so now he's playing for his paycheck. So I'm hoping. And behind him on linebacker is that young man, homegrown. He went to Lake Zurich, Jack Sanborn. So I'd like to see what he has. He seems like a really gutsy guy. A lot of people didn't think he was going to make the team. He did. So I'd like to see if he played very well in preseason, so let's see if he's got it in him. And then Jalen Johnson is one of our cornerbacks, while Kyle Gordon is also on top. It's possible on the other side of the quarterback opposite him. At safety, we had Eddie Jackson, and then we have a new guy who was drafted this year, and it's Basker. And these are the starters at safety. And this guy was drafted. Was he our first pick? He was our first pick in last year's draft, so he came in round 2 because we didn't have a number 1 rounder last year, which we're going to have this year, which is awesome. Then, of course, we've got our kicker, Santos. We have a new punter, Gill, and our long snapper is still Patrick Sales. So looking good. Kicking game solid. That punter, he had a great preseason, so I'd like to see what he has. So, this is the Bears, all new players. I only named some of the new guys. Mostly, it's almost a whole new team we're seeing. It really is. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with these new guys. It's going to be an up and down season, I believe. Again, if we can improve each week, and yes, I'd love for us to have a winning season. There's no doubt about it, but I just don't know. We're going to know a lot more after Sunday's game, which is in Soldier Field at noon, and I really, really hope we pull this one out. You never know. You could surprise everybody that first week I believe anybody could beat anybody in the NFL. I believe that on Sundays, no matter what. But the first game is always, you saw what happened last night to the Rams. Oh, they look really bad, but I am pretty sure they're going to figure it out. And the other thing is, too, is that this proves, last night's game, in my opinion, proves that guys have to play in the preseason more. Both those quarterbacks, for the Bills and the Rams, they did not play in preseason. And most of their starters did not either, and it showed. That first half was sloppy, lots of turnovers, but the Bills got it together in the second half and won that game, as you know, handily. So we'll see. Anything can happen on the first week, so go Bears. One little thing I thought I'd put into this week's show is if you've watching me for the last 3 seasons, you know that I'm a huge Bears fan. And I was in high school. It was 1975. That was my junior year. And that's when I got turned on to the Bears. I turned on the TV. I was in my parents' room. They were downstairs. It was a Sunday. My dad had, there's only 2 TVs in the house. Those are the days he only had 2. And one of them was like a piece of furniture. And then I was up in my parents' room on this little, 13-inch TV with the rabbit ears. And I turned it on, and the TV channel was on, the one of 5 we had back then. And it was a Bears game. And there's this guy running up and down the field. I'm like, oh my God, he's awesome. And it was Walter Payton. I was hooked after that. So I've been a fan since 1975. And so I decided this week to see how many wins I've seen since 1975. So the Bears had played 746 games since 1975. I started watching them, and there were 374 wins. So that's about 50%, I'd like that to be higher moving forward. You know what I'm saying? They had 9 different head coaches since 1975. I know, that's a lot. And so, I don't know. It's like, at least I was worried that I would figure out that it was going to be less than half, but it's about half. So, but, there's a lot of other teams out there. Their fans can say they've saw a lot more wins than I have. But I'm a devoted Bears fan, and if you know me, you know I am. Don't be calling me on Sundays. I'm a football nut. I mean, everybody knows that. College, pros, I started last night. I'm going to watch a college game today and tomorrow, and then Sundays all day, NFL, and I am psyched. So go Bears. Okay, so, and if you haven't been watching my show from through the preseason, I had 2 shows. I started a new award this year called the Turf Player of the Game. And the reason is that this is turf when they pulled up the artificial turf in 1977, I believe they pulled it up, or 78. And my husband and I bought 2 squares of it. And the players, 1997. Did I say 77? 1997 is when they pulled up the turf. So, Walter Payton ran on this turf. All the Bears, the 85 Bears were played on this turf. So this is tough turf. And this sucked because, as you can see, there's not a lot of cushion in there. So that was the best thing they did in the 1998 season when they had real grass. So each week I'm going to name the Turf Player of the Game. And it's just, it's going to have to do with stats, how they played, how many tackles, all of it. Not just one thing or the other, okay? So we'll start that. And the other thing is I wanted to give a shout out to a guy. I hooked up last year or 2 years ago with an old high school softball teammate, Kathy. Hey, Kathy. And she is a huge Cubs fan. She works for the Cubs part-time. She's retired school teacher. And she is good friends with the head of security, and his name is Frank. And he listens to my show. Thank you. And he did a shout out to all. He has a podcast and on YouTube, and he has a ton of Cubs fans on there. And he gave me a shout out and said, you should listen to Lynn. She has a unique and fun way of talking about the Bears. And it's true. Now, most of them watched my first preseason show, and we know it was not very good. It was not the best. It was preseason for the announcer, too. So I'm hoping they'll give me another shot and watch today's show and move on. So thank you, Frank. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all my loyal listeners and anybody who watches me. I really do appreciate that. You take 25 to 30 minutes out of your day to listen to me. So I appreciate it. And as the season goes on, if you're new, I'll be telling stories. I've got great Bear stories. I may repeat some of them because I have new listeners. So watch me because we have fun on this show. And, I make fun of myself a lot. And this is the one. This face is not a good look on a woman's body. This is my dad's face. It's just not fair. So this is something I have a good time with. If it makes you laugh, if my show gives you a little knowledge and makes you laugh, my day's complete. And that's what I like. So let's go Bears. First game of the season. Anything could go. And I will be back on Monday to go over Sunday's game. We'll get into stats more, and each game after this, every Friday, I will do shows talking about the game coming up. I will do stats for both teams, compare them, how the Bears are doing, and then the show, if it's a Monday or Tuesday show, depending on when the Bears played, I will always do a show. So 2 shows a week, starting next week. Monday and Friday, and we're going to go from there. So I'm saying the Bears are going to win. I'm not going to predict a score. I know it's going to be close if they win, but if the Bears can keep their penalties 5 or below, if they can win the time of possession and don't have turnovers, but cause turnovers, they have a real chance. And that's something turnovers have been lacking the last few years. So, you know me. Penalties, time of possession, and no turnovers, they have a chance. So, go Bears. All right, baby. I can't wait. And I get to watch my first game on Sunday with my 5-month-old grandson. Man, I cannot wait. He's going to be over, and I'm going to be teaching him all about it. I know it's a little young, but hey, you got to get them started early. So thank you for watching. I love y'all. And as always, I always end my show this way. Be kind to one another. Smile at people when you see them today, tomorrow, the next couple days. Because, a smile can go a long way. It is easier to smile than frown. Because frowning causes wrinkles. Smiles do not. And help somebody out if they look like, because you don't know what kind of day somebody's having. You don't know what's going on in their lives. So be kind. Love one another. We're in this together. And my last shout out is to Queen Elizabeth. Rest in peace. You were one hell of a broad, lady. Definitely. And that is a compliment of all compliments. All right, I love you guys. Go Bears, and as always, keep on rocking and rolling from Vegas, baby. I'll see you on Monday after a Bears victory. Oh, bye-bye.